marked by the billionaire alpha. Ever wonder what it feels like to be devoured by a single glance, like your entire existence is suddenly on the verge of being swallowed whole by something more dangerous than you've ever known? That's the question that slams into Aria's mind on a thunder-scorched evening when she finds herself face to face with a tall, brooding stranger who seems to shatter the stale warmth of her everyday world in one abrupt, breath-stealing moment. She doesn't know who or what he is, only that he carries a magnetic force of pure, dark energy that hits her senses like a lightning bolt, leaving her heart hammering and her pulse thrumming with a mix of fear and desire. And deep in her bones, she feels a truth taking shape: this is no ordinary man, because no ordinary man looks at a woman like he already owns her soul. The cafe is nearly empty when it happens. Rain batters the windows with relentless fury, drowning out the dull hum of the city outside. Aria's wiping down the counter for what feels like the 20th time that night, cursing the late shift that often stretches past midnight. She almost prefers it when it's busy, when the swirl of customers and chatter and steaming lattes distracts her from the monotony of a life she never asked for. But tonight is quiet, too quiet, a silence broken only by the storm's angry howls. She glances at the clock. Another hour, maybe two, before she can lock up and catch the bus back to her cramped apartment. Lightning flashes across the sky, illuminating the world in a bluish glare. A flicker of anxiety twists in her stomach. She's never liked storms, never liked the way thunder vibrates through her ribs, reminding her how small she is. She steels herself and returns to her task, focusing on the squeak of the cloth against the countertop. A stray thought weaves through her mind: will anyone even show up this late, in this mess? Then the door slams open, whipped by the wind. Her heart jolts. He steps in like a living shadow. Rain drips from the shoulders of his expensive black coat, pulling on the floor as the door slams shut behind him in a gust of damp air. His presence is jarring, tall, lean, with eyes so intense they seem to pierce the dim light. She can't quite see their color from this distance, only that there's a pale gleam reflecting off them each time lightning cracks outside. There's something wolfish about the way he pauses just inside the door, scanning the nearly deserted cafe as though it's his personal kingdom. For half a second, Aria's mind goes blank. Something in her chest tightens with an irrational rush of panic, and she can't even bring herself to say the standard greeting. She's used to wealthy customers, she's in the city, after all, and the cafe sometimes draws in the late-night business crowd. But this man, there's an undercurrent of feral danger swirling around him, like he's barely restraining something monstrous beneath his immaculate attire. He meets her stare across the room, and that one look jolts her like a live wire pressed to her heart. He moves forward with a smooth, predatory grace, and she notices the tendons in his neck flex, as if he's fighting an urge to lunge. Her pulse stutters. She tries to paste on a polite smile, but the corners of her mouth refuse to rise. The overhead lights hum in quiet submission. There's a tension in the air, heavy enough that it feels like another crash of thunder is building inside the small space. She forces herself to speak, voice cracking. "Welcome," she manages softly. Can I get you something?" He doesn't answer at first. Instead, he studies her face with a curious intensity that sets every nerve in her body ablaze. When he finally speaks, his tone is low and dark, with a faint rasp that curls around her senses. "Black coffee." Aria nods, turning away quickly so he won't see the slight tremor in her fingers. She can't explain why she's shaking. Sure, he's gorgeous in a way that shouldn't be possible: chiseled jaw, cheekbones sharp as glass, hair dark as midnight, framing features that look carved out of obsidian, but she's met handsome men before. This is different. It's the raw, electric hunger that drips from him, the way the hair on the back of her neck stands up like it recognizes a predator in its territory. She rushes to fill the cup, her mind whirling with questions she can't possibly articulate. He's just a customer, she tells herself. Just a billionaire-looking stranger with a lethal aura. Nothing more. She slides the coffee toward him, avoids his gaze, and whispers the price. He hands her a black card that confirms her suspicions. He's beyond wealthy. She processes the payment, aware of his eyes burning holes in her. Her heart raps a violent rhythm against her ribs. She wonders if he can hear it. When she tries to meet his stare again, he's turning away, taking the cup with him. Relief floods her. She half expects him to remain at the counter, maybe attempt some conversation, but no. He drifts to a table in the far corner, back-angled so she can't see his face. The air feels charged around him, as though the entire cafe is caught in some invisible storm. She exhales shakily, trying to steady her breathing. Minutes crawl by. The thunder outside rumbles like a warning. Aria busies herself wiping non-existent stains, trying not to stare. But every time she glances up, she senses his presence magnified, like a shadow stretching along the walls. Not a single drop of coffee leaves his cup. He just sits there, unmoving, gazing at something beyond the glass. Then, without warning, he stands. The sudden motion makes her heart jump. She tries to straighten, tries to ask if everything is okay, but he's already crossing the floor in long strides. He halts at the threshold, coat billowing with the wind. He glances over his shoulder, eyes locking on hers again, and for a split second she sees something wild flicker in them, something that feels like recognition, or maybe longing. It steals her breath clean away. Then he's gone, swallowed by the raging storm, leaving the door banging in his wake. She stands there in silence, the coffee cup abandoned on his table, untouched. The moment feels surreal, like she somehow missed a crucial piece of a puzzle. She shivers when the thunder shakes the windows, uncertain if it's the cold or the memory of those eyes. She finishes her shift on autopilot, half expecting him to return, but he never does. By the time she's locking up, her nerves are so frayed she can barely think straight. She boards the bus home, curls into a window seat, and tries to dismiss his face from her mind. It doesn't work. His image clings to her like static, haunting her through every bump and jolt of the late-night ride. By the time she reaches her apartment, a cramped studio with peeling wallpaper and a perpetually leaky faucet, she's exhausted. Sleep comes slow and uneasy, disturbed by dreams she can't fully remember. All she knows is that in those dreams, there's thunder and lightning, and a dark figure always standing just out of reach. She bolts awake hours later, drenched in sweat, a phantom ache radiating from her neck. The morning light is watery through the blinds, painting the cracked ceiling in muted grays. She sits up, pressing a shaking hand to her throat. It hurts. As though someone had bitten her, or sucked the blood straight from her veins. Ridiculous, she thinks, but the pain is real enough to make her gasp. She stumbles into the bathroom, flicking on the harsh overhead light. She tilts her chin, brushing her hair aside, and nearly chokes when she sees it, a faint bruise curved along the juncture of her shoulder and neck. It's shaped oddly like teeth marks, though not exactly. More like a brand that she can't explain. Her stomach lurches. She hasn't been with anyone ever. She would remember if someone bit her. God, what is this? She whispers, trembling. Her breath fogs the mirror, reflecting a frightened face. She tries to chalk it up to stress, maybe an allergic reaction. She can't linger on it too long, though. She has to get to the cafe for another shift. Work is her only lifeline, and she needs to keep it. So she pulls on a turtleneck to hide the mark, ignoring how the fabric scratches against her sensitive skin. Out in the stairwell, she can hear her landlord's voice booming about late payments. She quickens her pace, not wanting to get caught in one of his rants, and slips out into the street. It's surprisingly bright outside, the storm clouds having blown away sometime in the early morning, leaving the sidewalk slick with puddles that reflect the city's skyscrapers. As she waits for the bus, she can't stop touching her neck through the turtleneck, wincing at each pulse of pain. The face of last night's stranger surfaces in her mind. A prickle of foreboding runs through her. She tells herself it's pure coincidence, that she had this bruise before he came in, or maybe she just didn't notice. But her gut screams otherwise. There was something about the way he looked at her that felt almost possessive. Her day passes in a blur of half-hearted customer greetings, wiping tables, refilling pastries. She keeps scanning the sidewalk through the large glass windows, half expecting to see him prowling outside, maybe glaring in at her with that dark intensity. She hates that she's looking for him. Hates even more that a small part of her wants to see him again, to confirm that he wasn't a figment of her imagination. The bruise throbs. She tries not to think about it. It's only when she's about to close up for the night, another slow shift, the manager having left her with final tasks, that she senses something off. The air in the cafe feels heavier, as though it's carrying a static charge. The lights flicker once, twice, then go steady again. Her pulse flutters nervously. She throws a glance at the door. Nobody there. Probably just the building's wiring acting up. Her manager always complains about how old this place is. She counts the register, cleans the espresso machine, and locks the front doors. The weather outside is clear now, though the wind is chill. She shivers in her light jacket, heading for the deserted bus stop. An uneasy sensation prickles the back of her neck, like she's being watched. She whirls around, nothing. Just an empty street, neon signs reflecting in the puddles. She hugs her arms around herself, hyper-aware that it's well past midnight and this neighborhood isn't the safest. A car engine growls somewhere behind her. She jerks her head in that direction, tension coiling in her gut. It's just a sleek black sedan rolling slowly by, headlights too bright for her to see the driver. The tinted windows reveal nothing. She forces herself to breathe. It disappears around a corner, leaving her alone again. She boards the bus when it finally arrives, sinking into a seat near the front to keep the driver in sight. She feels foolish, scared by her own shadow, but she can't deny the sense that something is unraveling inside her. Back at her apartment building, she climbs the stairs quickly, rummaging for her keys. It's only when she's directly outside her door that she notices the strangest thing, the faintest hint of a masculine scent, musk and a hint of spice, lingering in the hallway. Her heart leaps. It smells like him. Impossible. She fumbles the key, curses under her breath, and when the lock finally clicks, she pushes inside, quickly flicking on the lights. Her place looks the same, drab furniture, an old lamp, a sagging mattress shoved in the far corner. But the air feels different. She can't pinpoint why. She drops her keys on the rickety table by the door, trying not to jump at every shadow. "You're letting your imagination run wild," she mutters. "Stop it." She notices a piece of paper on the floor near her makeshift couch. Odd. She doesn't remember leaving anything there. She stoops to pick it up and almost screams at the sight of her own name scrawled in bold letters. Just her first name, Aria, written with a strong stroke of a pen. No last name, no message, no explanation. A tremor runs down her spine. How did this? She presses a hand to her mouth. The bruise on her neck gives a searing throb. Her eyes dart around, but there's no sign of forced entry. Windows still locked. Door was locked. She stands there, chest tight, mind whirling with questions, fear, that faint thrill of something that feels too close to fascination. She can't handle it. She tosses the paper in a drawer and rushes to the bathroom, splashing cold water on her face. She stares at her reflection, half expecting to see a different person. She sees only a frightened young woman with circles under her eyes, hair frizzed from the humidity, and that faint bruise hidden beneath the turtleneck collar. A part of her wants to call the police, but what would she tell them? That some stranger came into her apartment and left a piece of paper with her name on it? That she's terrified and has no idea why? She ends up in bed, covers pulled tight, her lamp still on. Sleep tiptoes around the edges of her consciousness for hours. Finally, near dawn, exhaustion wins. She dreams of a swirling black forest, trees stretching into a moonless sky, and in the center stands a massive wolf with eyes like molten silver. It bares its teeth, lets out a low, rumbling growl that vibrates through her entire body, and when she tries to scream, no sound comes. The wolf lunges, jaws open wide, everything going dark. She wakes with a jolt, sweat dripping down her temples. Her phone's alarm blares, announcing the start of another day. Her hands tremble as she silences it. She can't keep living like this, on the verge of panic, with no answers. She decides that maybe, if she returns to the cafe early, she can distract herself with menial chores, pretend the world is still normal. She's halfway down her building staircase, mind already on autopilot, when a voice stops her cold. Going somewhere? She whirls around. He's there, leaning against the banister, dressed in an immaculate suit that clings to his broad shoulders, dark hair framing his face in the same dangerously alluring way she remembers. His eyes pin her to the spot, something primal and electric charging the stale air around them. Kieran. She doesn't know how she knows his name, only that it floods her mind in one sudden, undeniable burst. Her pulse thunders so loudly she barely hears her own voice. How did you get in here? His mouth curves in something that's neither a smile nor a frown. Locks aren't much of an obstacle when you know what you're doing. There's no apology, no shame, just a casual statement of fact that sets every hair on her body on end. She stumbles back a step, desperate to keep distance between them. You can't be here. This is trespassing. He descends a single step, each movement laced with predatory grace. I need to speak with you. Aria's heart slams against her ribs. Why? She whispers. What do you want from me? His gaze drifts down to the curve of her neck. Even through the turtleneck, she feels the bruise throb like a beacon summoning him. A flicker of satisfaction lights his eyes. You already know. She doesn't know how she finds the courage to speak. I don't know anything. All I know is that ever since you showed up, nothing makes sense. What is this mark? She presses a trembling hand to her hidden bruise. Why does it hurt? Why am I? He's on her in 2 swift steps, closing the distance before she can finish. His scent washes over her, a heady mix of rain-soaked earth and something wild that makes her insides clench. Her back meets the wall, and she gasps. He looms over her, bracing one hand beside her head, close enough for his breath to ghost across her cheek. She should scream, should fight, but she can't. Some part of her is riveted by him, by this raw, overwhelming aura that speaks of power beyond anything she's ever touched. He lowers his voice to a near growl. That mark means you're mine. She shakes her head, tears burning the corners of her eyes. You're insane. People don't just claim other people. People, he repeats, a note of mocking self-awareness flickering in his tone. Is that what you think I am? Aria's breath hitches. There's something not human in the way he regards her, in the glimmer of light behind his irises, a silver sheen reminiscent of a wolf's reflection in the moonlight. A flicker of a memory from her dreams surfaces, the giant wolf snarling. What are you? She manages, heart pounding. He hesitates, tension rippling through his shoulders. I'm the alpha of a clan you've never heard of, he finally murmurs. A world that hides in plain sight, because people like you, humans, couldn't possibly understand. She should laugh, call him delusional, but she can't. The memory of that savage wolf in her nightmares, the bruise that mimics the shape of teeth, the unstoppable force emanating from this man, fear and curiosity coil inside her, a twisting knot that leaves her dizzy. I'm sorry, she whispers, but I don't believe you. Don't you? He traces a fingertip across the edge of her jaw, trailing sparks of electricity that make her nerves sing. Your heart is pounding because a part of you knows I'm telling the truth. You felt it the moment you saw me in that cafe. There's a bond forming between us, something unstoppable. You can fight it, but it'll only make it stronger. Bond? Her voice trembles. I never asked for this. He exhales, a muscle jumping in his jaw, as though her words land on a vulnerable spot. Neither did I, he says softly. But fate has a perverse way of choosing who belongs to whom. And Aria, he leans in so close she can see the gold flecks in his irises. You belong to me now. She jerks away, breath catching in her throat, tears threatening to spill. I'm not an object, she hisses. I'm not some property you can own. His expression flickers with something that almost resembles regret. I know. But my wolf doesn't. It's chosen you. The mark is proof. You're not the only one who feels its pull. She recalls the ache in her neck, the nightly throbbing that only eases when she thinks of him. Panic surges. So what does that mean, that I'm stuck with you? A grim smile tugs at his lips. Stuck is one way to put it. We can figure out the specifics, but he glances down the stairwell, as though expecting someone. I don't have time to explain everything right now. But you need to understand there are enemies watching. If they catch wind that I have a mate, especially one unprotected, unaware of our world, they'll see you as the perfect leverage. She tries to form words, but only manages a hollow rasp. This is too much. Too surreal. A clan of wolves living among humans, curses or bonds or whatever this is, dangerous enemies lurking in the shadows, her mind spins. Why me? She finally forces out. I'm nobody. His gaze softens, and for a moment, she glimpses a vulnerable truth in those stormy eyes. You're everything I've needed, even if I didn't realize it, he admits quietly. And that makes you a target. Target? She feels the color drain from her face. Before he can answer, the door at the bottom of the stairs creaks. Someone's entering the building. A flicker of tension crosses his face. He steps back, giving her space. She almost slides to the floor with the sudden relief, her legs threatening to give out. He regards her with a fierce protectiveness, as if memorizing every detail of her before they're interrupted. "Don't go to work tonight," he says, voice urgent. "Stay here, lock your doors. I'll come back for you, explain everything properly. Just promise me you'll keep out of sight." She wants to argue, to demand more answers, but the footsteps in the stairwell draw closer. She can't process any more. Her mind is about to explode from the things he's said. She doesn't have the strength to fight. So she just nods, breathing ragged, and watches as he fixes her with one last, smoldering look. Then he disappears down the steps, slipping into the corridor like a dark phantom. Aria staggers into her apartment, locks the door behind her, slides to the floor. Her entire body trembles with the aftermath of that encounter. She can still smell him, can still feel the trace of his fingers on her skin. And despite her terror, despite her anger, a heavy ache of longing coils through her belly, tying her to him in a way she can't explain or escape. She presses a shaking hand to her mouth. This is insane. She can't hide away in her room just because some half-deranged alpha said so. But the memory of his urgency, the seriousness in his tone, weighs on her. If she ignores him, she might be walking straight into the danger he warned her about. The bruise on her neck pulses again, as though punishing her for even thinking of defying him. She lasts half the day, pacing her tiny living room, checking the locks, jumping at every creak in the hallway. By evening, her nerves are shredded. She tries to keep busy, cleaning surfaces that are already spotless, folding clothes she's folded 100 times. Nothing eases the anxiety. The city skyline outside her window glows with neon promise, and a part of her yearns to run out there, forget everything in the pulse of nightlife. But fear stops her. Fear, and maybe something deeper, an inexplicable loyalty to the voice that told her to stay put. Midnight creeps closer. She wonders if he'll keep his word and return. She tries to picture the moment he steps through her door again, tries to ignore the wild flutter in her chest at the thought. The hours drag on. Eventually, her eyes grow heavy. She dozes fitfully on the couch, curling into the cushions, the overhead lamp still glaring. She wakes to a gentle knock that makes her heart leap into her throat. The clock on her phone reads 2:48 a.m. She stands, every muscle stiff. Another knock, firmer this time. She steps toward the door, pulse pounding. She can sense it, he's back. She doesn't know how she knows. She just does. Her hand rests on the doorknob, trembling. Who is it? Her voice wavers in the silence. A moment of hesitation. Then, in that low, thrumming tone, Kieran. She exhales shakily, unlocks the door. When she opens it, he's there, hair slightly disheveled, eyes burning bright. He steps inside without waiting for an invitation, shutting the door behind him. She notices flecks of water on his coat. Was it raining again? She'd been too lost in her own thoughts to notice the storm coming back. He shrugs off the coat, dropping it on a nearby chair, gaze locking onto hers. She sees tension etched into his features, like he's been fighting something, or someone. A bruise darkens his jaw, only noticeable up close. Alarm spikes in her. Are you hurt? She can't stop her hand from reaching out, fingertips brushing the mottled skin before she can think better of it. He closes his eyes momentarily, inhaling at her touch. It's nothing. I had some business to handle. Her chest tightens at the thought that he might have been fighting, might have killed someone for all she knows. He did warn her about enemies. She drops her hand, unsure if she wants the details. Why are you here? His eyes snap open, raw hunger evident in the way he looks at her. Because I had no choice. He swallows. I tried to stay away, give you time to adjust, but it's impossible. The bond is growing stronger. And so are the threats around us. She crosses her arms, half in self-defense. You can't just barge in and expect me to go along with whatever this is. I have a life. His lips twist in a humorless smile. Do you? He challenges softly. You live in a crumbling studio, working a job that barely pays your rent, with no family to speak of. You think that's enough to keep you safe from my world? Her cheeks burn. She hates how easily he's dissected her reality, how exposed and insignificant she feels. At least it's my life, she mutters. He steps closer, voice gentling. I know. But everything changed the moment I caught your scent. I'm sorry you got pulled into this. I truly am. But we have to deal with it, or you'll end up caught between rival packs ready to use you as leverage against me. She still can't wrap her mind around the concept of werewolf packs, rival clans in a modern city, conspiracies hidden from humans. So what do you suggest? She asks warily, refusing to let him see how his mere presence sparks heat in her veins. His gaze flicks to her neck. Let me see it. She knows what he means. A flush creeps across her cheeks, but she raises the turtleneck collar slowly, exposing the bruised mark. It's darker now, the skin strangely sensitive. He inhales sharply, and the sound rattles right through her, awakening a traitorous wave of longing. It's claimed you, he murmurs, voice thick with some emotion she can't name. And that means we're bound in a way I can't ignore. She wants to ask 1,000 questions. Did he do this? How? Why does it burn when she thinks of him? But the words tangle in her throat. She feels tears threatening again, out of frustration, confusion, maybe even the maddening attraction she's developing for this stranger. What if I don't want to be bound to you? She whispers fiercely. A flicker of pain crosses his face, followed by a steely resolve. I'd release you if I could. But that's not how the bond works. It's tied to my wolf, and my wolf has chosen. His wolf. She can hardly believe she's standing here, in her shabby apartment, discussing a supernatural claim with a man who looks like a fallen angel dipped in darkness. She can't help a faint laugh, though it's tinged with hysteria. This is insane. His hand lifts to cup her cheek, thumb grazing the edge of a tear she didn't realize had escaped. I know, he says gently. But it doesn't have to be terrible, Aria. We can figure it out, if you'll let me protect you. She searches his face, torn between wanting to trust him and fearing the unknown. I'm scared, she admits in a shaky voice. He leans in, his forehead nearly touching hers, an intimate gesture that makes her stomach flip. So am I, he confesses. I've never, he breaks off, jaw tightening. I never planned on taking a mate, especially not a human. But fate doesn't ask for permission. The words swirl between them, a fragile hope in the midst of chaos. She realizes how close they are, how the heat of his body seeps through her clothes, igniting a slow burn low in her belly. Her breath hitches. She shouldn't feel this pull towards someone who's basically invaded her life without warning. Yet she does. A sudden knock at the door startles them apart. She sees Kieran's expression darken, a savage glint lighting his eyes. He presses a finger to his lips, motioning for her to stay quiet. The knock sounds again, more insistent this time. The doorknob rattles. Her pulse skyrockets. Aria? You in there? A gruff voice she vaguely recognizes from somewhere, a neighbor, maybe? But the tone is off, hostile. She looks to Kieran for guidance, fear curling in her gut. He steps toward the door, moves with lethal grace, pressing his ear against the wood. Silence. Then the voice again, sharper, I know you're in there. Open up. Got a delivery for you. Don't, Kieran mouths at her, eyes narrowing. She has no intention of opening the door anyway. She's practically paralyzed, dread pulling in her stomach. Her mind conjures images of the enemies Kieran mentioned, someone wanting to lure her out. The doorknob rattles harder, and the wood creaks as if under pressure from the other side. Kieran's lips peel back in a silent snarl, and for a split second, she sees it, that wolfish energy gleaming in his gaze, the promise of violence caged within his human exterior. He grips the handle, flings the door open a crack, and a deep growl rips from his throat when he sees who's there. The man on the other side is burly, wearing a plain jacket, but there's a menacing gleam in his eyes. She can't hear what Kieran hisses, but the man's face pales. Kieran, she whispers. He growls something under his breath. The man backs away, a look of pure fear twisting his features. Then he stumbles, turns, and bolts down the hallway. Kieran stands there, fists clenched, as if fighting the urge to chase. Thunder rumbles outside, echoing the tension inside the apartment. Aria exhales shakily. What just happened? He shuts the door, flicking the lock. He wasn't human, he mutters, voice rough. A scout from a rival pack, searching for the rumored mate of the Blackthorn Alpha. Guess they found you. She's too stunned to speak. The brief exchange was enough to confirm that her life is in real danger. Her illusions of normalcy crumble like ash in the wind. She can't even muster a protest when Kieran turns to her, eyes blazing with protective fury. We can't wait any longer, he says, voice taut. I have to take you somewhere safe. Her heart stutters. Now? He nods, crossing the room in 2 strides. He snatches his coat from the chair, then grabs her wrist with a gentleness that belies his tense posture. Pack a bag, something small. We're leaving immediately. She bristles, about to argue that she has a job, a life, obligations. But the memory of the intruder outside her door silences her. She might not want to trust Kieran, but she knows she can't face these threats on her own. Tears threaten once more, a swirl of fear and reluctant acceptance. She picks up a worn duffel from the corner, shoves in clothes, a toothbrush, personal items. The entire time, Kieran paces by the window, scanning the street below for signs of further danger. The tension in the air is like a living creature, coiling around them both. When she's ready, bag slung over her shoulder, she turns to him, chest tight. "What if this is a mistake?" she whispers. He meets her gaze, the faintest hint of softness beneath that ruthless exterior. "It might be," he says quietly, "but it's the only way to keep you alive." Then he opens the door, checks the hallway, and holds out a hand. "Let's go." She hesitates, 1,000 doubts gnawing at her. But then she sees the bruise on her neck in the mirror's reflection and remembers the quiet hunger in that scout's eyes. This is real. No matter how much she denies it, she's in a world of wolves and danger now. And Kieran is the only lifeline she has. She slips her hand into his, a tremor racing through her at the heat of his skin. He tightens his grip, leading her into the dim corridor. Neither of them speaks as they descend the stairs and step out into the night. The city is alive with neon lights and distant car horns, completely unaware of the primal war brewing in its shadows. She glances up at Kieran, heartbeat roaring in her ears, and sees a fierce determination etched across his features. They reach a sleek black car parked at the curb. He unlocks it, helps her inside, then slides into the driver's seat with fluid grace. The engine purrs to life. She shoots one last look at the worn facade of her apartment building, feeling a tug of uncertainty, and then they're off, merging into the darkened streets. Her heart clenches, knowing she may never return to her old life. She wonders if she'll even survive the new one. She risks a glance at Kieran, who's focused on the road, jaw set. A stray street lamp flickers across his face, highlighting the sculpted lines of his cheekbones, the tension in his jaw. There's something undeniably magnetic about him, something that stirs a forbidden ache in her chest. For all her fear, she can't deny the rush of gratitude that he came for her in time. The car weaves through unfamiliar roads, leaving the city lights behind. She doesn't dare ask where they're going, too afraid of the answer. The hum of the tires on asphalt lulls her into a state of restless anxiety. Each mile carries her deeper into the unknown, deeper into Kieran's world, a world where werewolves mark their mates, where enemies lurk in every shadow, and where she's somehow the center of a dangerous new reality. Her pulse pounds as the car speeds through the night, the darkness pressing in on every side. She can sense Kieran's wolfish energy rolling off him like a tangible force. Each time she shifts, the bruise at her neck throbs, a reminder that she's not running from this bond, she's running straight toward it. She's about to ask him what comes next, how she's supposed to accept or survive any of this, when he suddenly pulls the car to a stop outside a looming steel gate. High walls stretch beyond the headlights, crowned by barbed wire. Her stomach knots at the sight. This doesn't look like a safe haven. It looks like a fortress. Kieran taps a code into a keypad. The gates rumble open, revealing a long, shadowy driveway lined with trees that seem to bend under some unseen weight. Her chest tightens, fear warring with curiosity. "Where are we?" she finally asks, voice small. He glances at her, eyes gleaming. "My territory," he says simply. "Don't worry. No one can touch you here." Then he eases the car forward, and the gates slide shut behind them, locking them in. She swallows hard, clutching the duffel bag on her lap. Everything is happening too fast, spiraling out of her control. She thinks of the cafe, of her old routine, and realizes with a hollow pang that she may never see that version of her life again. And yet, despite the panic fluttering in her chest, a tiny spark of anticipation ignites. Something tells her the moment she crossed these gates, her world pivoted on its axis. She glances at Kieran once more, seeing tension etched in the set of his shoulders. He's silent, but his whole being radiates a fierce determination to protect what he deems his. The bruise on her neck throbs again, in time with her heartbeat. She presses a hand to it, as if that could somehow soothe the heat. The car stops outside a sprawling building that looks like a cross between a modern mansion and a fortress, all sleek lines and tinted windows. Kieran kills the engine, then turns to her, gaze dark and unreadable. "We can talk inside," he says. She nods numbly. He opens his door, and she follows, legs wobbly. The night air here is different, quieter, heavier, as though the entire place is encased in its own bubble of tension. He leads her to the entrance, swipes another code, and pushes the heavy door open. Warm light spills onto them, revealing a tastefully decorated interior that reeks of luxury and power. She steps inside, heart racing, bag clutched to her side. As soon as the door closes behind them, the weight of her situation crashes down. She's alone with him in this fortress, miles from anywhere. The tension vibrates between them, a living thing. She doesn't know if she wants to scream or collapse into his arms. Kieran starts to speak, but at that moment, her phone buzzes in her pocket. The sudden noise makes her jump. She fumbles it out, sees an unknown number, a cryptic text reading, "You can run, little mate, but you won't hide for long." Her blood runs cold. She shows Kieran the message, hand shaking. Fury ignites in his eyes. He all but growls, snatching the phone from her. "They already have your number," he snarls. "I should have taken you away sooner." Terror grips her. She can't breathe. She's about to speak, to demand answers, when he gently but firmly takes her chin, forcing her to meet his gaze. "Aria," he says, voice shaking with the force of his emotions. "No matter what happens next, remember you belong to me, and I will do anything, to keep you safe." She opens her mouth, but no words come. The heat of his touch sears her. His eyes burn with a primal promise that both terrifies and enthralls her. For a heartbeat, she thinks he'll kiss her, claim her right here in this cold, echoing foyer. But he doesn't. Instead, he releases her, sets her phone aside, and draws in a ragged breath. Before she can process it, he strides across the room, checking something on a security panel that glows with complex readouts. She stands frozen, the text messages threatening words looping in her mind. Her thoughts swirl with confusion, fear, and an unexpected surge of reckless excitement. This is the moment her old life truly ends, and the next one begins. She raises her gaze to Kieran's broad back, watches the rigid tension of his posture. He's a stranger, a wolf, a billionaire alpha with a dark kingdom at his feet, and somehow, fate has decided she is his mate. The knowledge crackles in her veins, setting her heart on fire. She takes a shaky step forward, the soft pad of her sneaker barely audible on the polished floor. "Kieran," she begins, voice hoarse. "What if?" He turns, eyes flashing. In 2 strides, he's there, so close she catches the faintest scent of pine and midnight on him. "You belong to me now," he says, cutting her off with brutal finality. "Remember that." His words ring through the silence like thunder, echoing in her bones. She realizes, with terrifying certainty, that she does remember, because a part of her has been waiting for someone like him her entire life, even if it means courting danger beyond anything she's known. But as she stands there, heart pounding, breath caught in her throat, she can't decide if she should run or surrender to the fierce electricity between them. And before she can choose, the overhead lights flicker, plunging them into momentary darkness. She gasps, stepping closer to him instinctively. the power surges back a second later, revealing his face etched in predatory lines. She sees in his eyes that everything is about to change again, that maybe the next person who steps through these doors will mean bloodshed or betrayal. She opens her mouth to speak, but the words never come. He takes her face in his hands, gaze searing as he bends toward her. Her heart trips, an explosion of anticipation. But just when she thinks he'll close the distance, claim her lips, he pulls back with a ragged breath. A cruel, knowing smile touches his mouth, though his eyes are shadowed with conflict. "Aria," he murmurs, voice tight. "I told you. You belong to me now." And before she can respond, darkness claims the house again, the lights flickering off with a final sizzle. Her pulse surges as adrenaline floods her veins, and in that instant of pitch-black confusion, she feels his presence looming, protecting, possessing. She thinks she hears a growl resonate through the stillness, or maybe it's her own heart roaring in her ears. Then the lights sputter on once more, and she finds him staring at her with a promise in his gaze, one that could mean salvation, or the end of everything she's ever known. She doesn't get to decide which. Because the next heartbeat, the alarms begin to shriek, and everything plunges into chaos. The front door explodes inward. A crash resounds so loudly her ears ring, and all she sees is the blur of a black shape lunging for them. Kieran shoves her behind him with a savage snarl, and she staggers, terrified. The intruder moves impossibly fast, the shape of a man but with eyes that glow in unnatural gold. She barely has time to scream before Kieran's muscles tense, and he shifts his stance with lethal grace. He tilts his head once, the ghost of a grin on his lips, then he growls 4 words that slice through the cacophony of alarms and splintered wood: "You can't have her." The intruder lunges. Kieran meets him mid-attack, fists and fury colliding in a blur of inhuman speed. She stumbles back, adrenaline roaring, hands over her mouth to stifle a scream. She wants to run, to hide, but the violence unfolding in front of her glues her to the spot. This is a fight between beasts, not men. She can sense the primal power swirling in the air, making the hair on her arms stand on end. A deafening crash as the intruder slams Kieran into a marble pillar. She cries out, stepping forward instinctively, but the savage snarl that tears from Kieran's chest sends her reeling back. He's unstoppable, eyes blazing silver, muscles cording like steel cables as he twists free and lands a blow so powerful it cracks the intruder's jaw with a sickening snap. Blood sprays across the polished floor. Her breath hitches, horror and awe battling for dominance inside her. She's never witnessed anything so brutal, so utterly inhuman. The intruder staggers, eyes narrowing in hatred. He rushes Kieran again, a wild battle cry ripping from his throat. Kieran braces for impact. Their bodies collide in a frenzy of claws and teeth, bared, yes, actual claws, sprouting from the intruder's fingertips in a grotesque surge of transformation. She thinks she's hallucinating, but the truth is far worse. These are wolves in human flesh, unstoppable forces colliding in savage violence. Kieran roars, twisting behind the intruder, hooking an arm around his neck. Muscles tense, a savage jerk, and suddenly the intruder collapses, limp, eyes rolling back into his skull. Kieran stands over the body, chest heaving, blood trickling from a cut on his cheek. He runs a shaking hand through his hair, meets her gaze with an intensity that steals her breath. She can't speak, can't move. Her entire body trembles. He approaches, wiping blood from his lip with the back of his hand. The alarms still scream in the background, echoing her own inner chaos. He murmurs her name, but she's too shell-shocked to respond. Finally, he cups her cheeks, forcing her to meet his gaze. "It's okay," he says, though his voice trembles with adrenaline. "He can't hurt you now." Tears slip from her eyes, and she hates that she can't hold them back. She wants to ask a million questions, but all that comes out is a soft, broken whisper. What are we going to do?" Kieran's grip tightens, and for the first time, she sees genuine fear behind his silver gaze. "We survive," he says hoarsely. "At any cost." She swallows the lump in her throat, nodding slowly. The sirens still wail in the background, the intruder's unconscious form sprawled on the floor. She doesn't dare look at the blood. Kieran brushes his fingers over the bruise on her neck, a strange tenderness in the gesture. "This is only the beginning," he warns. But remember, he closes his eyes, as though steadying himself. When he opens them again, they blaze with unrestrained possession. "You belong to me now." And just like that, her world shatters, the final shards of normalcy spiraling into oblivion. There's no turning back, no return to the woman she was before his storm crashed into her life. Darkness encloses them like a living force, the alarms a shrieking testament to the war that's found them both. She steps closer, just enough for her breath to mingle with his, her heart pounding so hard she thinks it might burst. He leans in, as though compelled by the same gravitational pull that tethers her to him. Their lips hover inches apart, the tang of blood and desperation thick in the air, her soul on the brink of surrender. Then he exhales sharply, a tremor rolling through his body. He tears his gaze away, lifts his head to the carnage around them, eyes narrowing in renewed determination. She can feel the moment slip away, replaced by the cold realization that they have an unconscious werewolf on their floor, an alarm blaring, and enemies who won't stop hunting. He reaches for her hand. She intertwines her trembling fingers with his, adrenaline buzzing through her limbs. Together, they stand amidst the broken shards of safety, hearts pounding in unison. The tension, the fear, the hunger, it all tangles between them, forging a link stronger than logic can defy. She wants to ask 1,000 questions about what he truly is, about what she's become by his side, about the extent of this war she's been thrust into, but she finds no words. All she knows is that beneath the swirling chaos, his presence is the only solid thing she can hold on to. Thunder rumbles in the distance, another storm rolling in. Outside, lightning flashes. The alarm drones on, a piercing siren that's sure to draw attention any second now. And yet, in that instant, the entire world narrows to just the two of them. She closes her eyes, fighting back a sob. A new life begins here, a life where she's bound to a billionaire alpha with a wolf in his blood and a darkness in his eyes. A life she never asked for, but can't escape. Kieran's hand trembles against hers. He tugs her gently toward him, scanning the room for the next threat. The intruder's unconscious form barely stirs. She steels herself, forcing down the terror swirling in her stomach. There's no more time for questions or second thoughts. She knows, with absolute certainty, that everything has changed forever. She's left with only one choice, to follow this stranger, this alpha, into the dark unknown of his world, and pray she finds a way to survive. And as he leads her deeper into the fortress, away from the carnage, his quiet murmur echoes her deepest fear and fiercest longing all at once. "You belong to me now." Do you know what it feels like to walk into a room full of predators who are all waiting for you to fail? Aria didn't, not until tonight, not until the moment she steps out of the sleek, obsidian car and sees an entire estate teeming with supernaturals who can smell her humanity like fresh blood in the water. It's the kind of night that makes you want to vanish on the spot, vanish or maybe shift into a wolf and run, but Aria can do neither because she isn't a wolf, not really, and because Kieran Blackthorn is at her side, guiding her with a hand that almost seems gentle if you don't notice the storm raging behind his eyes. She's trying not to tremble. She can feel the power pulsing through the air like a second heartbeat, a force that makes her stomach knot and her palms sweat. This place, Silverphone Hall, or so Kieran told her in the car, looks ancient and regal, fashioned from dark stone that glimmers under the moonlight. Tall, arched windows line the fortress-like exterior, and torchlit corridors stretch beyond the wide entrance doors. The night sky above is thick with drifting clouds, obscuring the moon that should be shining bright, and Aria finds herself longing for that sliver of comforting light. Instead, there's only the hush of an expectant crowd and the distant echo of some ceremonial drum, beating in sync with her racing pulse. Kieran doesn't let go of her hand. She can't decide if his grip is reassuring or imprisoning. Maybe both. He leads her forward across the cobblestones, past stone pillars carved with symbols she can't decipher. She hears whispers, sees glimpses of pale faces and glowing eyes behind ornate masks. The hush in the courtyard breaks as soon as they appear. Dozens of voices coil through the air, murmuring things about her, about him, about how he's bringing a human to the gathering. She stiffens when she catches certain words: worthless, omega, unworthy. They say it so easily, as though they expect her to crumble at every step. A spark of defiance flares in her chest, surprising her. She might not be a wolf, but she's not a coward. If Kieran has taught her anything, besides how terrifying it is to be claimed by an alpha, it's that fear can't be allowed to paralyze you. You have to keep moving, no matter how many eyes are watching. Someone steps forward, a tall woman with cropped silver hair and an impeccably tailored suit. She bows slightly to Kieran, a gesture of respect marred by the way her gaze flicks over Aria as though sizing her up for a coffin. Lord Blackthorn, the elders are waiting, the woman says, voice smooth as glass. She doesn't even pretend to greet Aria. Kieran nods curtly. Then let's not keep them waiting, he murmurs, the rumble in his tone sending a shiver through Aria. She can feel the tension coiling beneath his restrained politeness. He's supposed to present himself tonight to prove his readiness to ascend or maintain his status, or so he explained in hurried whispers on the drive here. Aria just knows it's a formal event of sorts, a test. And she's the wild card he's throwing in front of the entire Silverphone society, staking his claim in the most public, scandalous way possible. They follow the silver-haired woman through the wide entrance. The hallway is lit with chandeliers that cast dancing shadows against smooth marble floors. Every footstep echoes like a funeral drum. Aria keeps her chin raised, tries to hide the anxious swirl in her stomach. Kieran's hand remains steady around hers, though she senses the tension in his body. His wolf prowls just below the surface, vibrating with protective aggression. She wonders if he's worried for her, or for himself, or maybe both. The walls of this corridor display massive portraits, alphas of old, she guesses, each with stern eyes and an aura that demands obedience. She swallows hard, imagining that soon, Kieran's portrait might hang there, too, watching her with those stormy eyes forever. They arrive at a set of carved double doors. The silver-haired woman announces them with a measured tone, Kieran Blackthorn, Alpha of the Nightbane District, accompanied by his chosen mate, Aria, human. The last word drips with quiet derision. When the doors swing open, the full weight of the room's gaze slams into Aria's chest. It's like stepping onto a stage in front of an audience of critics, except these critics have fangs, claws, and centuries of tradition backing them up. They fill the circular chamber, elders in long robes embroidered with silver threads, younger wolves in modern suits or gowns, all bearing that same refined, predatory air. The ceiling curves high overhead, gilded with star-like designs that reflect the flickering candlelight. At the center stands a low platform, reminiscent of an ancient dais or altar. Kieran's grip tightens, and for a moment she wants to squeeze back, to remind him she's there. But he doesn't look down at her. His gaze is fixed straight ahead, face impassive, like a monarch entering his throne room. She notices a figure near the dais, a woman with hair the color of moonlight, wearing a flowing gown that accentuates her flawless figure. Celine Vale. Even from here, Aria can see the faint, knowing smile on her lips as if Celine can taste the scandal about to erupt. A hush falls. Everyone waits. Kieran descends a few steps into the center of the chamber, guiding Aria carefully by his side. At first, it's quiet enough to hear her own heartbeat. Then the whispers start again. A human? Has he lost his mind? She's not even an Omega from one of our allied clans. What will the elders do about this? Aria tries not to flinch, remembering Kieran's earlier warning, they'll call you unworthy, but they won't dare harm you, so long as I don't give them reason to. She forces herself to meet some of their stares, though each glance feels like a brand on her skin. A single elder steps forward. He's tall, gaunt, with hair the shade of iron and eyes that blaze a fierce gold. Kieran Blackthorn, he intones, voice echoing off the polished walls, you stand before the council to confirm your readiness to lead as Alpha under the Silverfang Creed. Is this, girl, your mate? A murmur ripples through the crowd. Celine Vale's lips curve in a faint smirk. Aria feels her throat constrict. She wonders if Kieran will flinch or hesitate, if he'll try to ease the crowd into accepting her. But no, he stands proud, shoulders squared. The faint tremor in his hand is the only sign he might be nervous. Yes, Kieran declares, voice cutting through the charged air. She is my mate. He pauses, locking his gaze with the elders, ignoring the rest of the snarling crowd. And I claim her before you all. A ripple of shock courses through the chamber, some gasping, others letting out low, disbelieving growls. Aria's heart hammers. She feels dizzy, aware that all it would take is one of them to step forward and call Kieran's leadership a sham. He's risking everything here. Did she ask him to? Of course not. But some part of her chest tightens with an emotion she can't quite name, gratitude, awe, dread. The elder's expression twists, something between disbelief and scorn. You dare bring a human into this domain? Our laws allow the Alpha to choose his mate, so long as the bond is genuine, Kieran interrupts firmly. I sense doubt in your tone, Elder. Shall I demonstrate the legitimacy of our bond? And that's when Aria's stomach plummets. She sees Kieran's eyes flicker silver, that telltale sign of his wolf rising to the surface. He glances at her for the first time all evening, gaze searching. She swallows, barely nodding, though she isn't certain what exactly she's agreeing to. Her pulse thrums wildly in her ears. Everyone is watching her, waiting for her to quake or run or fail. Kieran takes a single step forward, guiding her with him, until they stand in the very center of the dais. The circle of werewolves encloses them, breathless. He releases her hand, brushes her hair from her neck with a gentleness that makes her shiver. Look at me, Aria, he murmurs, voice barely above a whisper, yet it echoes in her head like thunder. She does, finding his stormy eyes locked on hers, swirling with determination and a flicker of apology. I'm sorry, he whispers, so only she can hear. I have to do this. She has no time to ask why. His fingers press lightly against her jaw, tilting her head. And then his lips brush the bruised mark on her neck, the place that once felt like a brand, the sign of his claim that's been plaguing her since she met him. Heat floods her senses. She grips his arms to steady herself, mind spinning with a sudden wave of desire that crackles through her limbs. He doesn't stop there. Under the stunned hush of the crowd, he sinks his teeth into that same spot. Not enough to truly wound, just enough to draw a tremble of pain and pleasure from her mouth as she gasps. The sensation is electric, a raw jolt that sears her to the core. Her knees buckle, but he holds her firmly. It's intimate and shocking, an unmistakable demonstration of the mate bond. She can feel the hush in the room grow heavier. It's over almost as quickly as it began, but the echo of his bite lingers, a throbbing mixture of need and agony that tangles with her pounding heart. He supports her weight, lips brushing the shell of her ear. Forgive me, he breathes again, voice ragged. But they had to see. Aria can barely speak. Her mind whirls with conflicting emotions, embarrassment, confusion, a dark rush of longing she doesn't fully understand. She's never been so publicly possessed. She hates how much she craves it. The hush in the chamber breaks into a cacophony of snarls and exclamations. A second elder steps forward, his voice booming. He's marked her. In front of us all. Are we supposed to accept a mortal as the alpha's mate? A woman hisses from the sidelines. The purity of our lineage. But the first elder lifts a hand. Enough, he commands. His gold eyes bore into Kieran. Your claim is proven. The question remains, can you protect this human from the threats your position will bring? Kieran's voice tightens. I can. The elder's gaze flicks to Aria, then to the faint bead of blood on her neck. His mouth curls in distaste. Then the council will weigh your actions tonight. We shall speak again soon, after we deliberate. Until then, Blackthorn, keep your new mate safe. We sense the tension in the clans. This arrangement may spark hostilities. The crowd begins to murmur louder, some outraged, others enthralled. Aria presses a hand to her throbbing neck, skin burning where his teeth met her flesh. Kieran's arms slip around her waist, and for once she can't bring herself to fight it, not when her head is spinning like a carnival ride. She feels his chest rise and fall with every breath, the quickening pace of his heart betraying how nervous he truly is. An opening in the throng appears, and he steers her toward a side exit, ignoring the calls and questions hurled in their wake. The hallway beyond is just as grand, but it's dimly lit, free from the watchful eyes of the elders and their retinues. He doesn't release her until they reach a small alcove, where an ornate window overlooks a courtyard bathed in moonlight. Her legs threaten to give out, so she braces herself against the wall, trying to catch her breath. He runs a hand through his dark hair, exhaling. Are you all right? His voice carries a thread of guilt. She can't find the words at first. Her mind replays the public marking, how he bit her in front of all those sneering wolves. She presses her lips together. I feel dizzy. He grimaces. I had to show them, Aria. You heard them. They were ready to tear you apart if they thought our bond was a sham. She knows he's right, but the reality stings. She steps away from him, hugging her arms around herself. You could have warned me, she accuses softly. I had no idea you'd. It was the only way, he cuts in, though regret laces his tone. I couldn't let them question us. If they believe our bond is incomplete or forced, you'll be the one who pays the price. Anger flares, swift and hot. You're telling me biting me was for my sake? She can't help the bitterness creeping into her voice. What if I didn't want to be shown off like that? His eyes flash, half wolf and wholly frustrated. You think I wanted it this way? I wanted to protect you, not humiliate you. She laughs without humor, hating the tears that prick her eyes. Then maybe you should have found a better solution. But she knows, deep down, how naive that sounds. She's seen these werewolves. She's felt their hostility in the air. They would never have accepted her word alone. He opens his mouth to answer, but voices ring out behind them. A small group of wolves in midnight blue finery stands at a respectful distance, though their eyes gleam with curiosity. Leading them is a tall, regal man with hair the color of ash. He dips his head. Alpha Kieran. We'd like a word. His gaze glides to Aria. In private. Kieran moves in front of her without thinking, shoulders tensing. Whatever you have to say, you can say in front of her, he growls. The man's expression flickers, a shade of annoyance creeping in. I'll keep it brief, then. He steps forward. These are precarious times for us all. Many find your choice of mate alarming. His voice is loaded with meaning. We want to ensure you have the council's best interests in mind. The elders want you to refrain from formalizing the bond any further until you have proven Aria will not be a liability. Aria stiffens at being spoken of like an object again. She glances at Kieran, noticing the muscle twitching in his jaw. Meaning? Kieran demands, voice low. Meaning, the man continues, no official ceremony. No arrangement that cements her position until the council is satisfied she poses no threat. And no immediate plans for offspring. His mouth twists, as though the word is foul. A hot flush of mortification washes over Aria. Offspring, as if they're animals. She senses Kieran's fury, sees the dangerous glint in his eyes as he steps closer to the man. We will do what we see fit, Kieran says through clenched teeth. The council does not have the final say over my mate. Is that so? The man's lips thin. Careful, Blackthorn. This domain belongs to Silverfang law. Defy the elders too brazenly, and your claim to leadership may crumble. You don't want to follow in the footsteps of your father, do you? At that, Kieran goes deathly still, a storm gathering behind his gaze. Aria wonders what happened with his father, but she doesn't dare ask, not now. She steps forward, placing a hand on Kieran's back. She can feel his muscles flex, his wolf lurking in the tension beneath his suit. The man looks pointedly at her, then at Kieran's face, and steps back. Do not forget your place. Good evening. With that, he and his entourage melt away, leaving a stifling silence. Kieran doesn't move for a moment. Then he inhales, turning to Aria. I'm sorry you had to hear that. His voice is tight, anger swirling just beneath the surface. These vultures can't wait to pick at every old wound. She wants to comfort him. She hates seeing that flash of pain cross his eyes. But she's still reeling from the humiliation of being bitten in front of 100 staring wolves, and the memory is raw. Kieran, she says softly, searching for the right words. Is this going to be my life now? Constant scrutiny, everyone whispering about how I don't belong? His shoulders slump a fraction. Maybe. Unless we prove them wrong. He tries to cup her cheek, but she instinctively steps back. She sees the flicker of hurt in his expression, but she can't help it. She's overwhelmed, pulled in 100 different directions by fear, curiosity, and, damn it, a desire she can't quench. Give me time, he murmurs. I'll figure this out. She doesn't know if she believes him, or if there's anything to figure out at all. She glances down the corridor, uncertain if she should run or cling to him. The memory of his teeth sinking into her flesh sends a shudder through her spine. A voice cuts through the silence, smooth as velvet. Alpha Kieran, you made quite the spectacle tonight. It belongs to Celine Vale, stepping gracefully out of the shadows. She's still in that silver gown, hair pinned back to show off the elegant curve of her neck. Her eyes flit to Aria, and that faint, knowing smile returns, the one that says she's plotting something. Though I must admit, your mate is lovely. Kieran stiffens. Celine, he says flatly. He moves closer to Aria, as though shielding her from Celine's gaze. Aria feels the tension spike. She knows this woman is important, maybe the council's darling, maybe a potential rival. But there's something more personal in Kieran's tone, something that makes Aria's chest tighten in unwanted jealousy. Celine glides closer, stopping a hair's breadth away from Kieran's personal space. She ignores Aria entirely. I wanted to congratulate you, she says, voice dipped in sugar. Though I find it so strange, choosing a human. Is this some attempt to provoke the council? Or have you truly lost your mind? He sets his jaw. My choices are none of your concern. She laughs softly, a musical sound that echoes off the marble. You used to be a bit more polite, darling. But I suppose we all change. Her gaze flicks to Aria, sizing her up. And you, my dear, do you realize how precarious your position is? The last human to become involved in pack affairs didn't live very long. Tragic, truly. Aria's nerves flare, but she forces herself to meet Celine's gaze. She won't be intimidated. Not tonight, after everything else. I'm aware of the risks, she says, though her voice is tight. Celine arches a perfect eyebrow. How brave. She turns back to Kieran, raking her gaze over him. If you need advice on how to handle the council, you know you can come to me. Our families have shared alliances for generations. Your father trusted mine implicitly. She cocks her head, feigning sympathy. I'd hate for you to meet a fate similar to his. Kieran's eyes darken, a warning glint. Stay out of my affairs. Aria is my mate, and I'll defend that bond from anyone who dares challenge it. Celine's smile never wavers. Of course, she purrs. I wouldn't dream of challenging you, publicly. She offers Aria a final, mocking glance before stepping away, her gown trailing across the floor like liquid silver. Welcome to Silverfang's society, she calls over her shoulder. Try not to get eaten. And with that, she disappears down the corridor, leaving a chill in her wake. Aria stares after her, a knot forming in her stomach. She realizes that, in her own quiet way, Celine is one of the most dangerous wolves here. Kieran exhales, pinching the bridge of his nose as though warding off a headache. She's the council's favorite, he mutters, noticing Aria's expression. Don't take her lightly. She's cunning, and her family holds more power than they let on. Aria folds her arms, looking down at the marble floor. I just want to go home, she admits finally, feeling tears threaten again. She hates how weak it sounds, but after the spectacle of the night, her strength is fraying. He nods, gently taking her hand. Come on. I'll take you back. They wind through corridors and slip out a side entrance into the courtyard, avoiding the prying eyes of the main hall. The moon peeks through a break in the clouds now, bathing the old stone walls in silver. The air is crisp, scented with pine and the faint tang of smoke. Aria's footsteps are unsteady, her mind churning with the knowledge that she just let Kieran bite her in front of an entire clan of werewolves, wolves who see her as less than an omega, who might be plotting to remove her from the equation. She wonders if she's strong enough for what lies ahead. When they reach the car, Kieran opens the passenger door. She hesitates before climbing in, glancing up at him. There's an apology in his eyes, a desperation he's trying to hide. Aria, he says, voice soft, I never wanted you to endure all this. She thinks of retorting with something sharp, something that conveys her anger and confusion, but the look on his face leaves her speechless. She simply nods, slipping into the seat without a word. He closes the door gently and circles around to drive. The engine purrs to life, and they pull away from Silverfong Hall, past the flickering torches and watchful shapes of wolves perched along the walls. Aria feels the weight of that place behind her, like a brand carved into her soul. The drive is silent. She stares at the passing night, trying to calm the riot of emotions swirling in her chest, fear, shame, a dark thrill she can't deny. Every time she glances at Kieran's profile, she recalls the moment he sank his teeth into her neck. Her heart can't decide whether to race or ache. When they arrive back at Kieran's estate, another fortress of glass and steel lost among the city's outskirts, she slips out of the car, ignoring the swirl of bodyguards who bow their heads at the Alpha's return. Kieran tries to walk with her, but she quickens her pace, hugging her arms around her torso like a shield. Inside the marble-floored foyer, she spins to face him, voice trembling with pent-up frustration. This is insane, she murmurs. I don't belong in that world. I'm not enough for them. Kieran's eyes flash with anger, but this time it's not directed at her. Don't ever say that. You belong wherever you choose to stand. If they doubt it, that's their problem. She bites her lip, tears pooling. You don't understand. They want me gone. People like Celine, they'll destroy me if it means protecting their traditions. He steps closer, lowering his voice. Then let them try. There's a feral edge in his tone, a promise of violence. She knows he means it, he would tear them apart for threatening her. But is that supposed to ease her mind? All it does is remind her how precarious her situation really is. If a single word from the council could incite a wolf's wrath, she could become collateral damage in an ancient feud. She shakes her head. You're risking everything for me. Maybe you shouldn't. His hand slides to the back of her neck, ignoring the slight flinch she gives when he brushes the fresh bite mark. I can't unfeel this bond, Aria, he murmurs. It's as much yours as it is mine. You think you can run from it? She doesn't answer, because she's not sure. Instead, she turns away, heading down the hall toward her bedroom. She hears him call her name, but she can't turn back. She needs space, needs to breathe without feeling the phantom press of his teeth or the stares of 100 wolves at her back. The suite he gave her is spacious, full of expensive furnishings and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city lights below. When she steps inside, she locks the door behind her. She collapses onto the bed, hugging a pillow, letting the tears come quietly. Each sob feels like a betrayal of her pride, but she can't keep it in anymore. Her life, her sense of self, everything is unraveling under the weight of Kieran's claim. She's never asked to belong to anyone, certainly not an alpha of a werewolf clan, certainly not in a swirl of politics and danger. Time passes in a blur of tears and half-formed thoughts. She hears movement outside her door once, maybe Kieran checking on her, but he doesn't knock. Eventually, she must drift into a restless sleep, because she awakens to find the moon's glow replaced by the faint pre-dawn light. Her neck aches, the fresh mark throbbing like a silent reminder of who she is now. She sits up, pressing a trembling hand over the bite. Something inside her stirs, a longing that physically hurts. It's the bond, she realizes, forging a connection between her and Kieran. She hates it and craves it at once. She forces herself to move, to gather her things. Her mind is made up before she can talk herself out of it. She'll leave. Not because she wants to spurn him, but because if she stays, she'll be his weakness, and eventually the council, or Celine, or anyone who hates this union will use her to hurt him. She can't be the reason Kieran falls. She won't be the chain around his neck in a society that demands he chooses a stronger, more worthy mate. Maybe once she's gone, the elders will back off, and he can salvage his reputation. It hurts like hell to think of leaving him, especially when she recalls his fierce protectiveness. But she sees no alternative. She's a liability, an outsider, a human. Her departure might be the only way to keep him safe. She changes into plain clothes, packs a small bag. Her hand trembles as she lifts the door latch. The hallway is quiet at this early hour. She creeps down the corridor, passing richly decorated walls and the echo of her own footsteps on polished floors. No one stops her. Maybe Kieran's security is minimal inside his own home, or maybe they trust her not to bolt. The front entrance is locked, but she finds a side door leading through a marble courtyard. She prays the gate alarm won't sound. Outside, a faint pink glimmer lines the horizon. The estate's walls are high, but she recalls glimpsing a side exit near the stables. She darts across the courtyard, ignoring the sting of morning chill. Her heart pounds, guilt and fear wrestling inside her. She pictures Kieran's face, remembers the way his hand felt on her back. A pang of longing nearly stops her in her tracks. But no, she has to go. For his sake, she tells herself, ignoring the tears that threaten to blur her vision again. Reaching the stable area, she skirts around a corner and finds a wrought iron gate. Closed, but not heavily guarded. She's never been so grateful for her quiet footsteps. As she slips through a narrow gap, a wave of dizziness slams into her. It's so abrupt she doubles over, breathing hard. A searing pain bursts in her neck, radiating across her chest. She clamps a hand over the throbbing bite mark, eyes watering. Why does it hurt so much? The bond, some inner voice answers. She's felt this bond tighten every time she thought about leaving. Now she's actually doing it, and the bond is protesting, her body punishing her for trying to break the connection. It's physically agonizing, like a claw dragging across her soul. She stumbles forward, biting back a cry. But she doesn't stop. She can't. Each step is a spear of pain, but she pushes on, fueled by raw determination. If this is how it feels to leave him, maybe it'll fade once she's far enough away. Or maybe it won't. She doesn't let herself consider that possibility. The sun edges over the horizon, painting the city with pale gold. She manages to slip out of the estate grounds, weaving through the gates as discreetly as possible. Once she's on the road, she hails a cab, ignoring the driver's curious glance at her tear-streaked face. She gives him an address, any place far from here. Her mind reels. She doesn't even have a plan. All she knows is she can't be the cause of Kieran's downfall. During the cab ride, the pain doesn't stop. It ebbs and flows, like someone twisting a hot blade into her neck. She clenches her teeth, pressing her palm to the mark under her coat collar. Why does it hurt so badly? She's known the bond was real, but she didn't realize physical distance could be so punishing. Maybe it'll fade in a few days, maybe she'll learn to live with it. She gazes out the window, feeling a deep ache that has nothing to do with the bond and everything to do with leaving behind the only person who's ever looked at her like she was more than an afterthought. She checks into a shabby motel on the outskirts of the city, paying in cash. The clerk doesn't even glance up, used to shady dealings at odd hours. Aria staggers into the small room, pulling the worn curtains shut. The air smells of old cigarettes and cleaning fluid. She collapses on the bed, the swirl of pain in her neck refusing to relent. She wonders how Kieran will react when he finds her gone. Would he tear the city apart to find her? The bond is mutual, so he must feel it too, right? Tears spill onto the dingy pillow. She's never felt more alone. The hours blur as she curls up, muscles spasming with every fresh wave of agony. She tries to eat something from the vending machine, but her stomach rebels. By noon, she's shivering, hot and cold at once, her mind spinning with fevered dreams of Kieran's face. She sees him scowling, sees him biting her neck, sees him whispering her name like a half-prayer. She wonders if she's made a terrible mistake. She's drifting in and out of a tormented doze when someone knocks at the door. Immediately, a spike of dread surges through her. Did Kieran track her? Or is it the council? Her heart thrums with panic. She creeps to the door, pressing her ear against the thin wood. Another soft knock. Then a voice, a woman's voice, melodic, with just a hint of menace. Aria, she calls, almost sweetly. I know you're in there. May I come in? Aria's blood runs cold. She recognizes that tone from last night, Celine Vale. How did she find her? Fear grips her, but she can't remain silent forever. Celine would probably break the door down if she had to. Summoning what little strength she has, Aria unlocks the door and cracks it open. Celine stands on the other side, a vision of effortless elegance even in the motel's grimy corridor. She's wearing a simple dress that clings to her curves, her silver hair pinned back. Her flawless face is lit with a polite, icy smile. Aria's voice wavers. How did you find me? Celine pushes the door wide, sweeping in without waiting for an invitation. It wasn't difficult, she says lightly, glancing around the dingy room with a faint curl of her lip. You're in quite a state, aren't you? I can smell your pain from the parking lot. Aria's cheeks burn with rage and humiliation. She tries to stand straighter, ignoring the spike of agony in her neck. What do you want? Celine closes the door behind her with a soft click. Isn't it obvious? She tilts her head, eyeing Aria with a mixture of pity and contempt. I want to know why you left. Did you really think you could outrun your bond with Kieran? Aria stiffens, arms crossing. None of your business. Celine laughs, a musical sound that makes Aria's skin crawl. I'm afraid it's very much my business. You see, Kieran's future is tied to this bond, and thus so is the Council's control. We can't have him unraveling our society with impulsive choices, like claiming a human. Aria's anger flares. You don't know him. He'll do whatever he wants, no matter what the Council thinks. Celine's gaze sharpens. That's exactly the problem. He's powerful, too powerful to be left unchecked. But you're his weakness. If you stay at his side, you'll drag him down. Do you really think he can defend his territory, his pack, with the Council breathing down his neck about a mortal mate who isn't fit for any of our traditions? Aria's throat tightens. Celine's words echo her own fears. But she forces a scoff. I'm not going back, if that's what you're worried about. Celine arches a delicate brow, strolling further into the room. Her eyes settle on the half-eaten vending machine snack, the rumpled bed, the flickering lamp. A flicker of disgust crosses her features. I see you're eager to spare him the embarrassment of your presence, she muses. But let's not be hasty. Aria blinks, confusion warring with pain. What do you mean? Celine spins around, eyes gleaming with calculation. I'm offering you a choice, she says, voice velvety soft. Leave him quietly, disappear from his life, let him forge alliances with wolves who actually matter, or find out just how far I'll go to keep what's mine. Aria's heart pounds. Yours? She whispers, ignoring the dizziness that threatens to knock her off her feet. Kieran isn't yours. Celine's smile widens, revealing a flash of teeth. Oh, my dear, everything in Silverfang is mine if I want it badly enough. Kieran has been slipping from her control for some time now, but with you gone, he can be persuaded to remember where his loyalties lie. If you choose to defy me, though, well, I can't guarantee your safety. Strange accidents befall those who tamper with the Council's order. Aria feels her stomach twist, fear igniting like a spark in dry tinder. Celine steps closer, her gaze chillingly serene. And let's be honest, she continues, you're already trembling on your feet, half delirious with the bond's pain. Do you really think you can stand against me, or any of us, when you can't even stand without wobbling? Aria clenches her fists, heat prickling behind her eyes. She wants to scream, to rage, to throw Celine out. But she's barely holding herself upright. Celine's right, her body is betraying her, and her only hope was that leaving would keep Kieran safe. But now Celine is here, twisting the knife even deeper. Leave him quietly, Celine repeats, leaning in until Aria can smell her expensive perfume. Break his heart, make him believe you chose a human life over his. Or you can return, but trust me, dear, if you do, I'll make sure you watch every plan, every alliance, every bit of power Kieran has crumble under the Council's heel, until he becomes nothing but a pawn. And you'll be left to pick up the pieces, if you survive. A trembling breath escapes Aria's lips. Her world spins, the edges of her vision clouding. She wonders if the bond's agony is about to steal her consciousness. Celine is still speaking, voice like a lullaby of threats. What will you sacrifice for him? Because if you want to keep him, you'll have to sacrifice it all. Aria wants to reply, to tell Celine to go to hell, to defend Kieran. But her knees buckle, sending her crashing to the floor. The last thing she sees is Celine crouching down, that serene smile still painted on her beautiful face, whispering, "So what's it going to be, little human?" Then darkness closes in, the bond ripping another scream from Aria's throat as her vision blurs. She hears that melodic laugh echoing in her ears, and she realizes the nightmare is only beginning. In her final moment of consciousness, she wonders if leaving was a choice she could ever truly make, or if fate is about to claim her just as viciously as Kieran did. Which is worse, discovering the man you love might burn the world to keep you, or watching him do it before your very eyes? That's the thought raging through Aria's mind as she stands on the balcony of Kieran's estate, lightning carving jagged lines across the dark sky. Down below, she can see a swarm of reporters, though they're not human reporters. They're high-ranking members of Silverfang society, disguised as journalists, paparazzi, even curious neighbors. All hungry for a glimpse of the scandal, the human mate who refuses to break. She inhales a shaky breath, ignoring the prickle of cold rain on her bare arms. Rain after midnight always made her anxious, ever since she was a child. She used to think storms were nature's way of warning humans about the predators that roamed the night. But now, the predators are inside these walls, disguised in fine suits and cunning smiles. And she's not some helpless lamb. Not anymore. Footsteps approach behind her. She doesn't turn. She doesn't have to. She knows it's Kieran by the weight of his presence, the soft rumble of his breathing. He stops a step away, as though uncertain if his touch would be welcomed right now. She remembers the last time they argued, how he bit her in front of them all, how she threatened to leave again. But she stayed. For him. For whatever it is that still pulses like a living bond in her blood. Celine's campaign, Kieran begins, voice low, it's spreading like wildfire. They've conjured every rumor they can, calling you the spawn of traitors, forging old records that name your family line cursed. They even claim your father led a rebellion against the Silverfang Council decades ago. Aria's hands grip the iron railing so hard her knuckles whiten. I know.